Well, in Wise's story, he's been awakened to the problem in a way that he just can't ignore. He has a broader view of the world, and now he cannot ignore the stench. He looks at the problem in the face, and after 3 days, does not turn away. Now, I think we have to look both at the difficulty and the beauty in this world to have the strength to do what needs to be done. Tim Wise understands that ignoring the problem does not make it go away. He says we ought to clean it up, quote, not because we are to blame for its creation, but because we are responsible for its eradication. Because we are alive, here and now with the problem. People will tell you that you can't change the way things are. Others will ridicule you for even trying, and sometimes, often, your efforts will fail. They will, in fact, likely fail more often than they will succeed. But it doesn't matter, he says, because there's redemption in the struggle. And I pray for our president right now trying to do that with healthcare. I know that that's got to be in your mind as you're thinking about a mop, right? Have you heard that metaphor this week? About mops all around. You can read it later. It's not that important. Anyway, win or lose, Tim continues, and don't get me wrong, he says, we indeed fight in the hopes of winning true justice. There is something to be said for confronting the inevitable choice one must make in this life between collaborating with or resisting injustice and choosing the latter. There is something to be said for knowing that you did all you could to stop a war, eliminate racism, or improve your community for the good of all. There's something to be said, he says, for a good night's sleep and the ability to wake in the morning, look in the mirror, and never doubt that if today were your last, that you would have lived a life of integrity. For although we never know when our efforts will succeed, he says, or even if they will at all, we do know one thing: as surely as the sun will rise and set each day, we know what will happen if we don't do the work. Nothing. Now, this country was founded on freedom, not just for some, but for all. American values ought not include entitlement. Anthony Robinson wrote in the Seattle Times this week, entitlement signals a rejection of the very DNA of America. Our national genetic code, at least at one time, was patterned on respect for the common man and woman. It was sequenced by a belief in the dignity of human life that's not the consequence of having, but of being. In the end, he continues, it's the entitled who, however rich, are truly poor. Instead of knowing life as a gift, life turns into something that is taken for granted, or worse, begrudged. That's real poverty, and no sense of entitlement can alleviate it. So I'm arguing, actually, that entitlement is anti-American, at least in the America that I believe in. Now, I don't know if you read this week, but Pat Buchanan was in the news proclaiming that white Christian conservatives are losing their country. Yes, it's true. White Christian conservatives are losing their country. They are indeed losing their country, Mr. Buchanan, because it never was their country. It's true. It has always been our country, and it still is their country in the respect of ours together, so may neither side forget it. But what does our liberal religious tradition say about entitlement? Why is this a religious topic? See, next week, Marlon will be preaching on our new theme for November, which is gratitude. We teach gratitude to our children to counter entitlement. We remind ourselves that we did not, in fact, create this day so that we can remember that no matter what we believe about God, we can be clear, in fact, that we are not God. We are not worshiping anything that is not God. Not ourselves, not money, not our own good fortune. And we need one another. See, our destinies are interwoven. Our lives are entwined and interdependent with the lives of whomever we might even consider to be the least among us. And real religion teaches us that. Real religion teaches us humility, helps us to understand what we are bound to. See, that word religare comes from to bind, and I envision many threads bound together in a tapestry. So religion is about realizing to what or to whom we are bound. Religion helps us remember that we are not isolated in this world, that our actions are not in a vacuum. And I would argue real religion has expectations of you and is not merely a vehicle for dream fulfillment or a way to placate current privilege. See, our faith asks us to take responsibility for what is ours and to pay attention to all that funk in the world, that smell that we ought not ignore, and when we can, to do something about it. Maybe it would be helpful if we had a wrapper on our symbolic American burger to remind us that we're all connected, that showed not only the nutrients and the ingredients of that burger, but listed the name of every single person who made it possible, who helped it to arrive in your hand, so that in our fast food world of abundance, we might not forget those who have worked hard to make our lives possible. From the hand that fed the cow to the person that gave them the job, from the person who cleans the slaughterhouse floor to the musician who plays the song that helps him get through his day. From the person who grew the tomato and the lettuce to the person who helped to water the field. From the delivery driver who brought it to your state, to the person who baked the bread, to the person who put it in the microwave at McDonald's, to the person who folded down that bag and placed it in your hand. And what if the slogan read instead, "From our souls to yours"? Amen.